her father.
Be on my deathbed to find out, like, if he's not my dad. That's not fair to me.
I have compassion for you because I've lost my mother as well, and I know what it feels like to be a young woman in the world. What kind of conversation is this?
I know how to push his buttons. I know how to make him mad. So that's what I was saying.
This is not button pushing, this is bomb dropping.
Do you also admit, Ms. Grant, basically defrauding him, basically saying this is your child when you knew for certain that it was not his child? Did you do that?
Mr. Harrison is suing Ms. Grant for paternity fraud and requests the removal of his name from the acknowledgement of paternity document for their 4-year-old daughter, Eiland-Jackson. He believes he signed the document under deceptive conditions. Ms. Grant admits to lying about an ongoing affair, but insists that Mr. Harrison is indeed Aaliyah's biological father. How evil is that?
I signed my acknowledgement for paternity for my daughter. I've had several people come to me through Facebook and through text messaging on my phone saying that, Aaliyah is not your daughter. Miss Grant is saying she is not your daughter. Apparently it's through several of her friends, that
they're
maybe
not any
she's
kind
had...
of friends of mine, Your Honor, if they're going around talking behind my back.
Mr. Harrison reveals that Miss Grant had a 15-year affair with someone else, and he has been with her for only 8 years. This affair predates their relationship. Despite being together for 8 years and having a previous child together, he alleges that she has been unfaithful throughout their entire relationship, including around the time of their first child's birth.
I was bringing home like a dryer or something like that and asked her to help me out bringing it in, and she wasn't helping me the way I needed to be helped getting it through the door, and I started getting maybe a little bit upset, just trying to bring a big washer and I needed help guiding it through. She got upset and she said, I just don't want to do this anymore.
I didn't want to have to keep lying to him, Your Honor.
Miss Grant admitted to a 15-year relationship with a friend, sometimes sexual, while with Mr. Harrison. Despite telling the friend about her intentions with Mr. Harrison, she continued the relationship. When questioned by the judge on how she maintained it, Miss Grant confessed to constant lying.
Pull this off.
Lies.
Non-stop, the entire time. Absolutely not. I would never cheat on you.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Harrison is suing you
Yes, ma'am.
for paternity fraud.
Yes, ma'am.
Because he says he signed the acknowledgement of paternity under false pretenses because he feels like you misled him.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison challenges Miss Grant on her credibility, referencing her confession about their relationship's deceit. In her defense, Miss Grant states she gave Mr. Harrison a choice to stay or leave after her admission. Despite relationship issues, Mr. Harrison wants to remain present for their kids.
When I came clean, I gave you the option whether or not you wanted to go ahead and call it quits for good, forever.
Yes, you're right.
Or if you wanted to go ahead and, lay it out all out
Because I'm not
on
a
the line.
deadbeat and
Because
actually
he's
want to be
cheated on
around
me
my
too.
children if they're mine. I'm not going to
cheated on
sit
me
there.
too.
I told her time and time again, I said, I don't care how bad at times our relationship is. Let's wait until the kids get older.
Miss Grant accuses Mr. Harrison of cheating with ring rats due to his indie pro wrestling career. Their relationship is clearly troubled. Despite the turmoil, the main concern is the paternity of their young child. Mr. Harrison feels deceived, leading to accusations of paternity fraud. Miss Grant admits to lying about being with others.
I did lie. I admit to lying about being
So how am I to know?
with
How am I to
somebody else
know?
here and there.
How am I
So
to
do you also admit, Ms. Grant, basically defrauding him, basically saying this is your child when you knew for certain that it was not his child? Did you do that?
No, ma'am. I knew 100% that she was his child because she was conceived during a blizzard.
Miss Grant confirms Aaliyah's birth date as September 15th, 2010. Based on this, Judge Lake calculates the conception dates to be between December 19th and December 27th. Ms. Grant recalls a significant blizzard during this time and claims the other potential father took off because he doesn't like the cold. The parents await the DNA results to know the truth.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Harrison, you are her father.
I told you.
I'm happy.
Good.
Miss Brown is suing her mom, Miss Brown Overstreet, for $2,200. She's upset because she doesn't know who her real dad is. The court might order a test to find it out. Miss Brown Overstreet hopes the man in court is the dad. When asked, Miss Brown said suing her mom feels better than how she felt growing up.
We want the truth in this courtroom.
My mom she wasn't there as much as she should have been there. I asked her on several occasions, do you know who my father could be? My mama just said, I don't know, I don't know. Every time I asked, it was, I don't know, I don't know. She gave me, actually, I have a list of men. It's about 6 or 7 guys.
Shantia Brown is in court because she doesn't know who her dad is. Clifton Smith might be her father, but they haven't tested him yet. Shantia was in foster care multiple times and was separated from her siblings. Later, her grandma took care of them. What evil parents she had.
My grandmother got us back. She got sick. I missed 3 months of school, got kicked out. I was in alternative school. I got kicked out because my grandma got sick and I had to take care of her.
And so what level of school did you finish, hon?
9th grade.
You went to the 9th grade?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you had to take care of your grandmother?
Yes, ma'am, and take care of my brothers.
When Shantia was around 6 or 7, her older brother, who was 3 years her elder, taught her basic life skills like riding a bike, tying shoes, and spelling. She acknowledges that her mother did some things for her, but feels that money cannot replace or erase past memories. Shantia felt tormented growing up without her father.
I had my oldest brother. He was about 3 years older than me. He taught me how to ride a bike. He taught me how to tie my shoe, how to spell. He taught me basically everything I know. And I admit she did a little of some of what she was supposed to, but I guess she felt that giving me money erased all the past memories that I had because of her.
When Shantia was 18, she was told that Mr. Smith might be her father. She was upset, questioning why he was trying to be a part of her life only now and why her mother hadn't mentioned him before. She was angry at both her mother and Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith then entered the courtroom.
We go back a long time. So when I called her, she was like that she was trying to find the father of our daughter. I said, wouldn't it be funny if I was the father? And she was like, oh yeah, I forgot all about you. I'm like, you forgot all about me. Then I was adding up the days. If I have a child out there, I want to know. So when I pulled up, I get out the car and my cousin pointed her out, so I was looking at her.
Mr. Smith expressed regret for not being present in Shantia's life. He was emotional, acknowledging that it troubled him to hear about the hardships she faced growing up without him. He believes no child should grow up without a parent. Reflecting on their past, Mr. Smith said he and Miss Brown had a fling during one summer.
And she had a boyfriend at the time. You know, we got together, it was more than once, and I went back home for the summer. I came back for the winter vacation, and I saw her, and I'm like, wow, you look a little fat there. She says to me, I ain't fat, I'm pregnant. Next thing came out of my mouth, well, who's the father? She said, don't worry about it, it ain't you.
Mr. Smith presented a photo as evidence, which turned out to be of his genitalia. This revelation shocked the courtroom, leading to laughter. The reason for the photo was to show an injury. Mr. Smith voiced concerns that, due to this injury, he might be unable to have children. The DNA result can reveal if what he says is the truth.
Mr. Smith, you are not Shantia's father. Miss Brown, you okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
How about you, Mr. Smith? I know you had hopes.
So I still love her. It's cool. She's still my baby, right? You know I love you.
Mr. and Miss Elston previously appeared in court regarding the paternity of their 2-year-old Carson. Elston admitted to having relations with her friend's boyfriend, even revealing a threesome event on Valentine's Day. Mr. Elston was concerned because Carson didn't resemble him. The results showed he was not Carson's father. Now, they're back concerning the paternity of their newborn, Kaysen.
Ladarian moved out shortly after Kaysen was born. He's been having paternity issues since we found out Carson was not his. He started saying that this baby doesn't look like me, he's not mine, and questions about the conception, and he wants to leave his family all of a sudden.
Wow, it has really taken a turn for the worse.
Mr. Elston doubts he's the father of Kaysen due to the child's resemblance to Carson, another child he learned wasn't biologically his. The similar names, both decided by Miss Elston and her friend, intensify his doubts, triggering painful memories from their prior court appearance regarding Carson's paternity.
I mean, I don't have a bond with him, and I don't feel like he's mine. They look alike to me, so they must have the same father. And the baby names are, identical, and it's something here that she's not telling me. So
we agreed on the name. I tried changing it plenty of times.
No, Your Honor.
He told me he didn't want to change it.
No, her friend chose the name, Your Honor.
The truth is, even the name triggers you.
Yes.
During Mr. Elston's work hours, Miss Elston had her ex pick her up, but fearing Mr. Elston's reaction due to past infidelity issues, she lied and said a friend got her. Their tensions escalated during her pregnancy, leading her to text him in anger, asserting that these children are not his. What an evil thing to do as a parent.
He already had, issues from the past of me cheating and all this stuff. So I didn't tell him, it was my ex because I didn't want him thinking I was sleeping with him or anything. I told him, I was like, well, that was not my cousin that took me. It was a friend, and he asked who, and I told him who it was, and I was honest about it. I just did not want no problems in our relationship at that point.
So you felt like you were just being honest?
Yeah.
Mr. Elston presented a text where Miss Elston stated, "Kaysen is not yours anyway. I blanked your homeboy." Mr. Elston responded, calling her derogatory names. Miss Elston then threatened to put him on child support due to their marriage, adding that marriage was her only reason. Judge Lake expressed concern about the harmful nature of their exchanges, highlighting their toxicity.
What kind of conversation is this?
I know how to push his buttons. I know how to make him mad. So that's what I was saying.
This is not button pushing, this is bomb dropping.
Yeah.
These exchanges are designed to destroy. You already said you had one child that was his, came back not his. Now you doing this again?
Yes.
Mr. Elston stated that a female friend informed him that Miss Elston cheated. Miss Elston said that the friend wants to break them up. The friend, Miss Stanfield, was then brought into the courtroom to testify directly. Was he able to clear the confusion, or will the DNA result be the only way to find out the true answers?
Mr. Elston, you are the father. Kaysen is your little boy.
But I still treat Carson like he's mine too, so I don't show him no different attention.
Yeah, you're doing an amazing job, and thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
Mr. Johnson denies being the biological father of Miss Kirby's 11-month-old son, Caden. He asserts that Miss Kirby's claims are affecting his current relationship. Miss Kirby insists that Caden was conceived during her relationship with Mr. Johnson and urges him to take responsibility, especially due to the child's health concerns. They argue about the impact on Mr. Johnson's current relationship.
She's trying to pin a child on me that ain't mine, and she's causing problems in my current relationship.
How am I causing issues in your current relationship when you just called to me yesterday?
I'm not trying to keep up with you. I just wanted to know, is this really happening?
So you think she's trying to pin a baby on you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have doubt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson insists he wouldn't abandon a child due to his past, but firmly believes Caden isn't his son, based on appearances. Miss Kirby disputes this, noting their physical similarities. Their relationship started at work, leading to an intimate moment in a car during a blackout.
During the blackout, we decided to go to the store. So we in my car, driving to the store. Charmaine started talking sexual.
Why would I talk sexual to you when I'm dealing with someone?
Wait, what was she saying? I think I want to know.
Mr. Johnson and Miss Kirby's relationship began at work, quickly leading to a sexual relationship. Despite its casual nature, Johnson claims Kirby admitted to being intimate with another man around the same time, raising doubts about Caden's paternity. Are his doubts correct?
During the time, she already told me, Your Honor, that she was having sex with another guy.
A month before you and a month after you, sir.
During the time we were having sex.
You're saying she told you I'm also having a sexual relationship with somebody else?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did she say?
She was like, well, I'm single, but I'm having sex with this dude also.
At a party, Mr. Johnson saw a post by Miss Kirby on social media about not needing help with her child. Curious, he messaged her asking if she was pregnant and if the child was his. Initially, she denied he was the father, but upon his visit to her house, she changed their story, affirming he was the father. What an evil thing to do!
She says, no, you're not the father.
Because I didn't want to deal with him at the time.
So why'd you go to her house after that?
Because I wanted to be clear, am I the father of this baby?
Oh, you were taking it one step further because, as you stated in your earlier testimony, you're not gonna play around if you think a child is your child.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Kirby claims Mr. Johnson hasn't done anything for Caden, while he counters that she initially told him he wasn't the father. Kirby admits she told him so because she believed Johnson wouldn't take responsibility. When questioned by Judge Lake, Kirby reveals she informed another man about her pregnancy too.
I did the calculations. We had sex July 10th, and this the around the time that I could see Kaden.
So you looked at the conception window?
Yes, ma'am.
And you determined that was during the time when you were sexually active with Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you also were in a sexual relationship with the other man?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson reveals he hasn't developed any relationship with Kaden. Ms. Kirby admits she video chatted Mr. Johnson to inform him of Kaden's needs, testing him to see his reaction. Ms. Kirby insists Mr. Johnson is Kaden's father, while Mr. Johnson denies any paternal connection to the child. Looks like the DNA results will tell us what we need to know.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Johnson, you are the father. Congratulations are in order again. That's your beautiful little boy.
I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. You're gonna do a whole bunch of things you haven't done up to this point. So why would we trust that you're gonna do them now that you know the baby is not yours?
He's a compulsive liar. Not only was she going on to do better, he also lied and said he'd been trying for months to get a DNA test, and I know that firsthand that that's also a lie.
Ms. Hamm seeks to confirm Mr. Kisner as her son Zayden's father. While he doubts paternity due to her past, he has been somewhat present. However, he lacked financial support and missed key events, leading Ms. Hamm's mother to step in. The family's involvement has been minimal.
Well, he may be there physically for Zayden, but he's not there financially. He doesn't have a steady job. He doesn't do as much as I would want him to do.
Have you been there for the child, Mr. Kisner?
Yes, I haven't been there.
Miss Willen, you said you're tired of playing daddy because you got to step up.
Yeah.
Ms. Hamm presented baby photos of Zayden and Mr. Kisner to highlight their resemblance. While Ms. Hamm and her mother, Rochelle, see similarities, Mr. Kisner and his family don't. Or are they just lying to get out of this responsibility? Mr. Kisner's doubts intensify as he reveals Ms. Hamm slept with his close friend. Hamm admits to the indiscretion.
What are these photos of, Ms. Hamm?
Zayden and him when they were both babies.
So these are photos of Mr. Kisner when he was a baby and of Zayden as a baby.
Probably around the same age.
And you think they look alike. There's a resemblance.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But your family, Mr. Kisner, says there is no resemblance.
Correct.
Judge Lake asked if Ms. Hamm informed Mr. Kisner about her affair immediately, which she did the next day. Despite this, Mr. Kisner chose to remain in the relationship, believing Ms. Hamm would change. He attests that she improved as a mother, and Ms. Hamm asserts that apart from the indiscretion with Kisner's friend, she wasn't with anyone else.
You felt awful about it and you immediately told Mr. Kisner.
Yes, that was the next day.
And he said he still wanted to be in a relationship with you.
Yeah.
I believe that Miss Hamm could show me change, and she did. She really stepped up as a mother and left all that life behind. So
she did.
She did.
Miss Hamm's mother commends her daughter's transformation since becoming a mother. The family moved to offer Miss Hamm a fresh start away from past troubles. The speaker, burdened with supporting everyone, recalls Miss Hamm's own fatherless upbringing and values her husband's parental role in Miss Hamm's life.
She has been an amazing mom, a completely different person. We made that choice as a family to move out of state to get her away from friends, and that way that life could never come up again. She can start new. They both have an opportunity here to start fresh, to start new, and put the past behind them.
Mr. Kisner harbors doubts about being the child's father, influenced heavily by his family's opinions. Rochelle observes that Mr. Kisner's commitment wavers after visits to his family, indicating their influence. She laments the constant tension between the couple and emphasizes the burden she bears in supporting the entire family.
Kisner, you are not the father.
Miss Goddard, with support from her mother, accuses Damon Harris of intentionally impregnating her to keep her with him, yet avoiding responsibility for their daughter, Anila. She's suing for a paternity test and $900 for college expenses she lost due to dropping out. Mr. Harrison admits he impregnated Miss Goddard purposefully, believing they were in love.
Your Honor, I know that he purposely got me pregnant because he told me himself, Your Honor.
Did you get her pregnant on purpose?
Yeah, I got her pregnant on purpose, Your Honor.
You did?
Yes.
And why?
Because we were in love. We were planning to have a baby, but she didn't want to have it. She wanted to go to school.
Miss Goddard admitted to Mr. Harrison that she slept with another man while they were together. Despite this revelation, Mr. Harrison remained with her throughout the pregnancy and birth, believing he intentionally fathered the child. Judge Lake highlighted that even if one tries to purposefully impregnate someone, if there are multiple partners involved, paternity could be in question.
So you admitted that you had had sex with someone else?
Yes, I did.
And he stayed with you?
Yes, because he said he knew that was his child because he purposely did it, and he knows it.
I don't think you all understand that you can purposefully try to get somebody pregnant, but if you're sleeping with somebody else too, it could be the other person.
Mr. Harrison stated he doesn't recall some earlier statements, pointing out that many women go to college while pregnant. Judge Lake expresses concern over Miss Goddard's stupid decision to have unprotected relations with multiple partners while prioritizing her education. She emphasized that Miss Goddard should have been more responsible and protective of her future.
He attempted to get you pregnant on purpose. What I also heard is you, a young woman, also say that I was sleeping around with him, but I also was sleeping around with another man, unprotected, the man that could potentially be the child's father as well. If you were serious about getting your education, you wouldn't have been engaging in those activities.
LaTanya confronts Mr. Harrison about his lack of presence during the baby's birth. She states that she had to force him to return to the hospital, and even then, he slept through his time there. She further accuses him of choosing to get high with his friends instead of signing the birth certificate. Mr. Harrison felt no shame and continued with his stupid lies about oversleeping.
I stayed there, Your Honor.
I had to threaten you to come back. I called you on the phone and said, get your behind back here to this hospital right
Your
now.
Honor, that's after she had
And
the.
he slept
Your Honor,
the
that's
whole time
after
here,
she had the baby, Your Honor.
And let's not talk about the birth certificate when you sign it. You'd rather go get high with your cousins and your friends than come there and sign the birth certificate.
Judge Lake tries to refocus the conversation on the child in question. She questions the choices made by the individuals, emphasizing the consequences of unprotected sex. The judge also questions when Mr. Harrison was informed about the potential infidelity, to which he states he was told after the baby was born.
Okay, all right, hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
How would they know if I'm taking care of my son?
I was your girlfriend. We was in love, remember?
Okay, you was at the house. Where were you at all the time?
Watching your son when you were
Where
outside.
were you at all the time? Tell the truth.
Let's get back to the child in question. Ultimately, this does not add to our argument.
Miss Goddard confirms to the judge the date she had unprotected intercourse with Mr. Harrison. When asked about her intimacy with another man, she reveals it was on February 28th, around her birthday. She explains that due to Mr. Harrison's multiple infidelities, this led to intimacy with the other man. And now they wait for the DNA results to reveal the truth.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Harrison, you are her father. Now you know.
Yep, and I will be taking care of her, as a real man should.
Mr. Jackson has brought a case to court, suspecting Miss Eiland of committing paternity fraud by alleging he is the father of her 2-year-old daughter, Jemiah. He discovered Jemiah's existence just a year ago. Since then, he has denied being her father. On the other hand, Miss Eiland claims that Mr. Jackson is deliberately denying their daughter to evade responsibility.
You believe the defendant, Ms. Eiland, has committed paternity fraud by claiming you fathered her 2-year-old daughter, Jemiah.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say Mr. Jackson is a liar.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's denying your daughter so he can avoid responsibility.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson described how he met Miss Eiland. He encountered her near his workplace, next to a public aid office. After a brief introduction and exchange of phone numbers, he walked her to the bus stop. Later that day, they connected over a phone call, and that very night, they became intimate on a back porch. Was he telling the truth?
And she was coming out of there. And I said, hey, how you doing? You know what I'm saying? Let me talk to you, get your number, whatever. She said, sure. Wrote the number down. I said, where you headed to? She said, I'm going home. I said, okay, the bus stop is that way. Let me walk you to the bus stop. I walked the Leah to the bus stop. She gave me the number. Right after that, I called her. She answered the phone. That night, me and Leah had sex on the back porch.
Wow, okay.
Mr. Jackson is skeptical of Miss Eiland's truthfulness regarding another man, whom he claims to know about through her family. Miss Eiland disputes his claim, emphasizing that their interactions were brief and mainly consisted of greetings. She asserts that after his one-time entrance into her home, their meetings shifted to the car, which she terms as car action.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes,
I want to know, why do you feel she is not telling the truth? What do you know about the man on the back porch?
Her family member
you.
let me know who the guy was. I asked her. I said, who is this guy? She says, Aaliyah.
He don't even talk to my family member. When he comes over, most he do is hey, and that's about it. It's me going out that door, going down the stairs with him.
They was letting me come in the house. They
That's about
stopped
it.
all of that. I was coming in the house.
Mr. Jackson was informed by a familiar woman, Miss Eiland's family member, that Aaliyah had a baby resembling him. He was taken aback, having not known about the pregnancy or the child, who was already a year old by then.
One more week, Yana. I came, she's gone. She don't live here no more. Okay, cool, she moved. Guess she called it off and let me know. Leave it alone. Man my business. One day, headed to the bus stop, see a woman that I know, so familiar. Oh, look at her. I know you from somewhere. Yeah, Leah's family member. Okay. By the way, Leah had your baby. That baby looked just like you.
Eiland created a fake Facebook account to contact Jackson about their daughter. After sending him a picture, he met her and spent 2 hours with their child. He promised to return, but vanished again. When she reached out for assistance, he claimed she would deactivate the account or block him. Well, the DNA result will tell us who's telling the truth.
You are the father.
Woo!
You are the father. That's your beautiful little girl.
Miss Osborne brought her mother to court, alleging she misled her about her biological father's identity. She believes Billy Jack Fitzmorris is her father, and, with her aunt, has requested a paternity test to confirm the truth. Her mother, however, claims another man is Miss Osborne's biological father. At 12, she was told differently.
And then all of a sudden, when I was about 12, I got told otherwise.
What happened when you were 12?
We were just sitting watching TV, and all of a sudden, she looks at me, she says, you know, there's a possibility that another man could be your father.
And what was your reaction?
At the moment, I didn't know what to do. I kind of just left the room, went and called my aunt.
And your aunt, Miss Brooks?
Yes.
For 12 years, Miss Osborne's mother, Donna, never specified who her daughter's biological father was. Despite Miss Osborne living with Billy Jack Fitzmorris' family, Donna claims she allowed this because she was young and they could provide a better life for her daughter. Are these just stupid lies?
Yes, and at the time, his family took her in. I was young, and I knew that they would have a good life for her, and they stepped up and asked to take her, and I knew that they could provide a better life for her at that time because I was young and naive and stupid. So I let them take and raise her. I've been in her life, and I've done things for her. And
Savannah expresses the pain she feels from not knowing who her real father is and how difficult it was to grow up believing someone was her father, only to find out it might not be true. Her mother, in response, expresses regret and explains that she waited until Savannah was older to tell her the truth.
Savannah, when you hear your mother speak and she says that she just allowed them to believe what they wanted to believe because she wanted to make sure you were safe. I know it's hard for you, but look at your mother and just tell her what that feels like.
It really feels horrible to not know who my real father is. After growing all these years, to believe somebody else was my father.
Donna was introduced to the family while working as a stripper. They believed Savannah was Billy Jack's daughter. Donna insisted she never confirmed Billy as the father to anyone. The family member questions why their family raised Savannah if Donna was uncertain of the paternity. Donna cites her instability at the time.
So when he brought Donna home, we were a little shocked because at the time she was working as a stripper and we didn't know what to believe, but we believed my brother and Donna both when they said that Billy was her biological father.
But you don't remember telling them any of this, Miss Osborne?
No, Your Honor.
Savannah believes her sister was fathered by another man due to their many similarities. However, when the sister, Miss Patton, is questioned, she believes a different man is her father, citing a connection with him and his family. Yet, she's unsure about the paternity of Savannah and waiting for that DNA result.
Ms. Brooks and Savannah are related.
I love you, Savannah, so much.
Mr. Matherson and his mother assert that he is not the father of Miss Robinson's son, Jaden. They accuse her of avoiding a paternity test for years. On the other hand, Robinson and her mother insist that Mr. Matherson has always known he's the father and should accept his responsibilities. Did Mr. Matherson lie about a delay in addressing the issue?
I waited, I tried last year to contact this same court, and she refused. She was ducking and dodging, you know.
I do see in the court records, original contact date is June of 2015, so that was more than a year ago. You say Ms. Robinson's been ducking and dodging.
Yes, Your Honor.
Aletha was advised to get a paternity test for Jaden due to Alexis's perceived promiscuity. Alexis believes this demand started after a dispute with Aletha. Aletha argues she requested the test due to challenges seeing Jaden, while Taisha asserts concerns over threats made against the child.
The thing is, Alexis, from the beginning, when we found out,
She
Alexis
confused.
was with
She don't know what's
Jaden.
going on. She don't know who she
It
wants
was
the
told
child's
to
father
me.
be.
It was told to me
That's all.
to get a paternity test when we found out she was pregnant by close friends.
So someone told you
Yes.
to get a paternity test?
Correct, because she's very promiscuous and that she is following in her mother's footsteps.
Alexis asserts that Taiwan showed no responsibility towards their child, prompting her to handle the financials. Taisha and Alexis argue over money meant for the child's care. Taiwan and Alexis confirm their high school relationship and admit to not using protection.
Jaden, I'm sorry.
Taiwan was not showing me any responsibility that he would be able to take care of my child.
I wanted him to give y'all his money to put in a bank.
I
enjoy
Man,
it.
we're
It wasn't
talking
gonna happen like
we're
that.
talking about a newborn child, so I was taking full responsibility.
Mr. Matherson reveals information about another man Alexis may have been involved with. Alexis claims she only learned about the paternity doubts last year and accuses Taiwan's family of being money hungry. She recalls the demand of $25 a week for the baby's expenses.
What guy is that, Mr. Matherson?
I haven't heard
A
about
guy named. A couple days later, she told me because someone told her if she didn't tell me, they were going to tell me.
I
She
did
did. So she
recall my
came to
mom
me and
didn't
told
even
me
allow me to
that
have
all they
a cell
did was
phone at this
kiss.
time.
So all this is a lie, Ms. Robinson?
Correct.
Basically, this is the first time we ever heard it.
We'll see.
Ever.
You never even heard about this questioning of the paternity.
Mr. Matherson claims he never had the chance to sign the birth certificate for the child. Despite his repeated requests to do so, he was continually put off, and eventually, the mother disappeared. The evidence he presents is the birth certificate itself, which does not list his name as the father, even 3 years later.
Yes, I didn't get a chance to sign the birth certificate. I kept calling. Oh yeah, we're gonna do it. Never got to do it. Next thing you know, she disappeared after Christmas. You know, I got evidence, you know. that
What
I
evidence is
didn't-
that? You're saying that you were asking to sign this. When are we gonna execute? And they kept telling you, we're gonna do it.
The discussion revolves around financial responsibilities and care for Jaden. The speaker mentions that since Jaden's birth, her mother has been assisting with his upbringing. Despite now having a job and attempting to take on her responsibilities, she notes a lack of effort from Mr. Matherson. Will Mr. Matherson be more responsible after seeing a DNA result?
Mr. Matherson, you are the father. That's your little boy.
Can we see him?
Your Honor.
Now, can we see
May I
him?
have that paper, please?
Oh, honey, I
have
can
partial custody?
This was about to have that. That's what's going on.
May I have custody?
Partial.
Partial, full.
She wasn't sure, and until she was sure, she led him to the water and let him keep drinking. This is clear as day from this seat. And so at this point, all we have left to get down to the bottom of this.
But you don't trust him as far as you can throw him, and you don't trust her.
I wouldn't trust him in my face, though. When he was messing with her, he was messing with me. Right, and now she pregnant. This might be his baby.
Mr. McRae believes he's the father of Miss Moore's daughter, Demiracle. He claims Miss Moore made him believe this for 10 months before telling him he isn't the father. Emotionally, he hasn't seen Demiracle in over a year and claims she's all he thinks about, affecting his personal relationships.
That's my world right now. That's all I've been thinking about. I can't have a good relationship with a female because that's all I think about. My focus is on her. She's so gorgeous.
Yes, she is.
And the more I look at her, she looks like me.
I don't think so.
Mr. McRae believed he was in a committed relationship with Miss Moore for 4 years after they met on Facebook. The first 2 years went well, but then issues arose. Miss Moore accused him of cheating, and she felt controlled by Mr. McRae. He questioned her whereabouts, especially on one occasion when she worked late, making her feel suffocated.
And we met on Facebook. We decided to hook up.
First 2 years, it was good and everything. Then after that, it started getting bad and all that other stuff, catching, cheating, and all that other stuff. I just had to let it go because last few years, he tried to be a father figure to me, telling me what I should and should not do. I cannot go here, I cannot go there. And like one night I worked late and he was like, where was you at?
During their 4-year relationship, Miss Moore claims they had sex only 3 or 4 times. In this brutal fight, Mr. McRae disagrees with Miss Moore's claim. He felt deeply connected during her pregnancy, even experiencing sympathetic symptoms. He mentioned shared food cravings, like stinking peanut butter. Mr. McRae confirms he was so invested that he signed the birth certificate.
You are the legal father listed on this birth certificate.
Yes, Your Honor.
At the time you signed this, you had no doubt you were the biological father?
I had no doubt.
So, Ms. Moore, why is his name listed as the legal father on her birth certificate if you say you knew he was not the biological father?
Because I was drugged up in the hospital, he had signed the papers.
Miss Moore explains that she allowed Mr. McRae at the hospital during the birth and let him sign the birth certificate because she was drugged and couldn't make decisions. Her husband couldn't attend due to personal issues. She suggests Mr. McRae wouldn't have been there if her husband had been present. They were cohabitating at the time.
Now, if this is not your husband, you weren't married to him, and you say you didn't believe he was the biological father of this child, he said he wasn't leaving unless a body bag took him out or security.
Right.
Well, then why wouldn't you just call security?
Because I was already drugged up. They had with epidural in me and everything, so I won't be able to remember anything because I was in so much pain.
Miss Moore explained that she had informed Mr. McRae that DeMiracle wasn't his child. Despite this, he continued to be present during his bond with the child. He gained access to DeMiracle through Miss Moore's grandmother. Mr. McRae's efforts to be proved as the father were in vain. The DNA result will reveal if Miss Moore's suspicions were right.
The biological father is Mr. Moore. He is the biological father. Can you accept that?
I can accept it. It hurts.
I know.
I gotta move on. She's still pretty to me.
Of course she is.
Because I was in foster care. I didn't know my father. I don't even know my dad. He walked in this room right now. And for her to be confused and not knowing who her dad is.
Miss Henderson accuses Mr. Goodson of neglecting their 4-year-old daughter. Both seek paternity tests. Mr. Goodson alleges Miss Henderson's infidelity and claims she was involved with both him and his cousin around the same time. Miss Henderson denies this, mentioning meeting his cousin on a chat line. Will this lead the couple towards a brutal fight?
I met his cousin on the chat line. So far, when we met on the chat line, I was just looking for friends, on a regular basis, and smoke and drink. So one day he came to pick me up, a white truck, bumping music all out or whatnot, or whatever. He in the back car, like looking at me like, ooh, he wanted me or whatever.
In a court setting, Miss Henderson recalls a time when Mr. Goodson allegedly stole his mother's car to see her, which he laughs off. The two recount their tumultuous relationship and how it began, including Mr. Goodson's involvement with her after his cousin. Their relationship intensifies, leading them to become sexually involved, especially after Mr. Goodson's release from jail.
Became involved sexually. After he got out of jail stealing the car, he called me like, can I come see you or whatnot? And I'm like, yeah. He came to see me again, but this time it was with his Caucasian homeboy and his son. And so I hopped in the van with them. We went to their house.
Did you check the registration?
No.
Miss Henderson and Mr. Goodson argue about their past relationship. Mr. Goodson questions if she had relations with both him and his cousin, which she denies. Their unprotected sexual relationship lasted a year, and they broke up after he allegedly informed her about being with another woman. Mr. Goodson suggests he wasn't aware they were exclusive.
I just feel like, at the time, she was a little bit older than me or whatever, so I liked it that she was older.
And she was working. Age, first of all.
Listen, I never lied about her age.
Oh my God.
But like I was saying, she had a little bit of money. I didn't have no money. I couldn't work at the time. I was a little bit younger than her. So the money what kind of got me into liking her.
Judge Lake asks for clarification about the relationship between Mr. Thomas and Miss Henderson. Mr. Thompson describes their interaction as a one-night stand after a possible night of drinking. Judge Lake confirms that either Mr. Thompson or his cousin, Mr. Goodson, could be the potential father based on the circumstances presented.
It's like a one-night thing. You know how it be some nights you might get drunk, be with somebody, might turn you on, just happen.
Right.
Okay, so it's a one-night stand.
Yes.
So either you or your cousin, Mr. Goodson, is the father.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. You may have a seat.
While in a relationship, there were instances of mutual attempts to incite jealousy. One day, after calling a man on her phone, the man claimed the child as his own, raising doubts for the caller. This claim added to the ongoing games of jealousy and mistrust. When the child was born, a DNA test was requested.
Basically, she'd call guys in my face or whatever, and I used to call guys, I used to call girls in her face, like, to make each other mad or whatever. So one day, I got in her phone one day, I called this dude in her phone, and then the dude answered the phone, he was like, we had changed some words with each other. And then he was like, yeah, this my son.
Miss Tori denies cheating on Mr. Goodson and reveals a tattoo of his name on her neck as proof. In response, Goodson mentions he also has her name tattooed on him. The trust issues continue, and the courtroom becomes intense as allegations arise about potential infidelities and another pregnancy. Only the DNA result can reveal the truth.
Mr. Goodson, you are the father.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa. I don't think I have to say much because your mother has said it all. Mr. Goodson, I don't know if you think this is a joke, what it means to be a man and a father.
Miss Wyatt and Mr. Roberts are in court over the paternity of their daughter, London. Married after 2 months, their relationship is strained due to Mr. Roberts suspecting Miss Wyatt's ex might be the father. Miss Wyatt believes Mr. Roberts is using this doubt to hide his infidelity. They're considering divorce.
Our marriage is on the verge of divorce right now. First of all, he's denying our daughter, and I think it's just to cover up the fact that he's, does a lot of cheating. Like, for instance, one time I went to the store, and a neighbor, he's 17 years old, and he came to the car and was like, hey, and Greg just got upset for nothing. He's just so insecure and so jealous.
Miss Wyatt and Mr. Roberts are brutally arguing over the involvement of exes in their relationship. Mr. Roberts claims that every time they argue, Miss Wyatt has one of her exes come over. Miss Wyatt retorts that she doesn't invite them arbitrarily and accuses Mr. Roberts of retreating to his family and letting them see him cheat on her.
I've never, ever just called an ex over just to call an ex over. Like, if we get into an argument and he either leaves or I make him go home to his mom, which he loves to do because he always runs back to them, telling them stuff about me. Matter of fact, his mom and his sisters, they all watch him cheat on me.
In court, Miss Wyatt revealed she recently lost a baby. She needed to visit her doctor, and with a flat tire, she relied on 2 exes for assistance, as Mr. Roberts was unavailable and her family was distant. She emphasized their respect for Mr. Roberts. Tensions escalate in the discussion.
Your Honor, first of all, the reason why I went to the hospital is I was pregnant. So the hospital, they pretty much, the person that was caring for me, the doctor that was caring for me so that she can take care of me. He couldn't fix the tire. Family don't like us, so I had to call whoever else I had to call. I'm in Florida. My family is in California.
In court, an incident arose where Mr. Roberts' best friend received texts from Miss Wyatt. She admits to texting, aiming to prove a point, as Mr. Roberts had online dating profiles, and she was being contacted by other women who claimed to be dating her husband. Tensions continue to heighten.
Throughout our marriage, he had online profiles. I've had women contact me saying, are you married to him? Because that's my boyfriend. I'm like, we're married. How is that your boyfriend? I don't know any other way. Honestly, I don't know any other way to let him know how I feel. So I tried to get him back.
Miss Wyatt expresses her frustration, admitting to creating online profiles as a way to move on from Mr. Roberts if he doesn't change. She feels like she's raising her husband alongside their children. Mr. Roberts counters, accusing her of not being a real woman and pointing out her tendency to throw him out frequently.
One man, you feel me, gonna be always the man if every time a problem go down, you throws him out like almost every week.
Your Honor,
like
you
every
get thrown out every week?
It's just about
everything.
How is he with your daughter?
I don't know. He's okay. He treats all the kids like he doesn't buy any Pampers, any wipes. I have to do it all.
Mr. Roberts reflects on his past, drawing parallels between his current relationship with Miss Wyatt and his childhood experiences. He recalls his parents splitting up when he was in 5th grade and the subsequent challenges, including being thrown out by his mother at 15 and turning to the streets and drug dealing to help with bills. Does the DNA result reunite them?
Mr. Roberts, you are her father.
Exactly.
Are you happy?
Exactly.
Are you ready to get in the game? And I'm not talking about football.
Amen for that. I'm talking about getting in the game.
We'll see.
Of trying to save your family. I think it's obvious Miss Wyatt loves you.
Mr. Conway denies being the father of 20-year-old Trayvon Cruse and owes $53,000 in back child support, resulting in numerous arrests. Ms. Cruse insists Mr. Conway is Trayvon's father and believes he is avoiding child support payments. Conway highlights complications from multiple child support orders.
Well, I'm paying child support in Nebraska, but he has 2 orders. 1 order in Nebraska, 1 order in Missouri. I didn't know nothing about exactly where they was in 2005 until I got arrested.
And you've never hired an attorney to deal with this issue?
Ma'am, this is the problem. If I had to get an attorney, I had to get an attorney from Missouri, but I live in Nebraska.
In this brutal fight between them, Ms. Cruse claims Mr. Conway hasn't contributed to their son's upbringing. Conway alleges payments made in Nebraska, but Ms. Cruse refutes this. When she inquired, Nebraska had no record of such payments. Despite Conway's claims, Ms. Cruse says she sporadically received minimal amounts, like $29 or even $3.
This guy's calling me, harassing me, saying they're taking $700 and something out of my check. I said, I'm not receiving nothing. I'm not receiving no aid for the state or anything. So why am I not getting my money? I want my money if he's paying it.
So you haven't received any support?
Off and on, $29.
Impossible, Your Honor.
$29 here, there's some $3 here. He ain't did nothing.
Mr. Conway alleges that in the hospital, he was advised not to sign the birth certificate. Ms. Cruse, refuting this, says he wasn't present when the document was provided. Although he claims he was present during her C-section, she emphasizes that by the time of the birth certificate's arrival, he had left.
In the hospital room, the nurse came in, she told me not to sign the birth certificate.
Wow.
Tell me I'm lying, TT.
You lying.
Is that true?
You lying.
Come on,
Your Honor.
Well,
At
why
that
isn't
time,
he
I was
on this
19
birth
years-
certificate?
I'm not on the birth
Because
certificate.
he was missing in action.
I was at the hospital when you was born. You had a C-section. I was there.
Exactly. You was there, but you was missing in action. You wasn't there when the.
Come on, I was
they don't
there
just
when you had
bring
to see. I was right in the room with him when he came out.
Mr. Conway points out that Ms. Cruse informed him of the pregnancy in July, and then she had the baby on January 17th. By counting the months, he questions if there was enough time for a full-term pregnancy. Ms. Cruse confirms Trayvon was full-term, suggesting that Conway's absence wasn't as long as he claims. Conway, however, believes the timeline doesn't match up for him to be the father.
Well, even if it was 6 or 7 months, you're saying it's not enough time.
Not enough time.
Was Trayvon a full-term baby?
Yes, he was a full term.
He came back pregnant.
And Your Honor, I had a job, so I can't just go somewhere in 8 or 9 months and then come back.
So you're saying you weren't gone that long?
No.
Oh,
you know,
every
he
weekend,
got
man.
selective.
Come on.
He got selective memory.
Trayvon confirms that growing up, he knew Mr. Conway was his alleged father, even though there was no name on his birth certificate. He recalls instances of being with Conway, such as being taken to a strip club by him. The narrative depicts conflicting stories that only the DNA result may justify.
Mr. Conway, you are his father.
That's what I'm talking about. Get your life together. You ain't had no business question mine.
Yeah, I question it. I question it because he
We don't want
questioned it.
nothing from him.
Something, Your Honor.
What would you like to say, Mr.?
I accept your apology, but honestly, after 20 years, it's so embarrassing how you just talk about my mom.
I took care of them for the whole time they've been on this earth living. He didn't work. I worked 2 jobs to make sure that they were taken care of.
He is over here breaking down because he loves this child so much. I sit here day after day after day with women hoping a man would drive 16 miles to see their baby.
Mr. Mitchell is seeking 2 DNA tests to determine if he is the father of his estranged wife's children, Deshaun Jr. and Bishop. He currently has custody of them. Miss Dalton, his wife, admits to infidelity and wishes to mend their broken marriage. It will be sad if the marriage still breaks after a sad reveal.
He wasn't working. There was constant, I worked 2 jobs in the beginning when I was pregnant with my first son. I worked 2 jobs to make sure that the household was taken care of. He didn't work, he gambled. You know, he didn't do anything that he was supposed to do as
Let her finish her testimony. I'll give you a chance to respond.
As a husband and as a father, if we were going to work together and do things.
Miss Dalton counters Mr. Mitchell's claims, stating that their relationship wasn't serious when they had their first son. She admits to infidelity, but explains that Deshaun was absent for some time. She describes her efforts to support the family, working 2 jobs during her pregnancy, while Deshaun didn't contribute financially and indulged in gambling.
I didn't have no family where she was staying. It was about an hour away from where I'm originally from. You know, she get down here and got all her little friends down here, and, you know, every day she leave me with the kids, because I guess she told me she works, she do this, she do that. She wanted to be able to have fun. She wanted to be able to do something for herself because she's so young. You know, that's what she keeps using as an excuse. She's young.
Deshaun asserts that Miss Dalton has moments where she leaves the house for extended periods following arguments. He claims she might stay out all night or even disappear for a week. Judge Lake questions Miss Dalton about these allegations. Miss Dalton admits to leaving once during a significant altercation that led them to separate for 7 months.
When there was an issue,
yes, I
you
did
admit
leave.
you left.
Yes, Your Honor.
But did you run into the arms of another man
No,
when
Your
you left?
Honor.
You didn't?
Yes,
No,
you did,
Your
Your
Honor.
Honor. Yes,
I
you
said
did.
I was living with my sister.
So
Your Honor.
during the time,
With a man
during
that
the
was sitting
time
over there
you
with her
all were
every day.
together, you were in your relationship, did you sleep with another man?
In the beginning, yes. But since we've been married, no.
Judge Lake inquires about the couple's marriage duration, learning they married when Miss Dalton was just 19. The judge then shifts her focus to Mr. Mitchell's doubts concerning the paternity of the 2 boys. Mr. Mitchell recounts how he met Miss Dalton on Facebook and later discovered she was living with another man at the time.
I happened to end up finding out once we was over my sister's house, and, you know, some guy calls her phone, Your Honor. So when the guy calls her phone, I'm like, you know, who is that? It's her cousin. That's what she says, it's my cousin, you know. So when I said, okay, well, we'll call your cousin back. Once she calls him back, he talking about they been having sex and he ain't been using condoms and she may be pregnant. This what he's saying, Your Honor.
Mr. Mitchell discovered from another man that his girlfriend, Miss Dalton, might be pregnant. Both men were unaware of each other. Although Miss Dalton defends her timeline of conception, Mr. Mitchell expresses paternity doubts. Despite these doubts, he signed their child Deshaun's birth certificate, leaving Miss Dalton shocked by his suspicions.
After Deshaun was born, you all obviously stayed together because not long after, you have another child.
Correct.
Before Bishop was born, which is my youngest son, before he was born, she was going around with some dude that she worked with.
So this is a different man from the one that told you she may be pregnant?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Dalton admits to cheating on Mr. Mitchell, even having another man over at their residence. She went to the movies with this man after the birth of their son, Deshaun. On one occasion, Mr. Mitchell came home to find the other man on their couch. The outcome of the DNA tests is vital for both.
Mr. Mitchell, you are Bishop's father. It has been determined by this court. Mr. Mitchell, you are Deshaun's father.
Miss Adams is in court concerning an urgent matter regarding her son, Mr. Adams. He is connecting remotely from Flint, Michigan due to legal restrictions. He's at risk of being arrested for unpaid child support. The goal is to prove he isn't the father of Miss Williams' 3-year-old child, which could prevent his arrest.
Mr. Adams, enlighten me on this situation. You were in a relationship with Miss Williams?
No, I really wouldn't call it no relationship. You know, I met her at a house party. She tried to have sex with me on the first date, so that was a judge of character right there.
But you weren't in a committed relationship?
No, Your Honor.
Miss Williams acknowledges that Adams and his mother have legitimate doubts regarding the paternity of the child. While Mr. Adams is in Flint, Michigan, apprehensive about possible arrest for child support, Miss Williams points out that she offered to pay for a DNA test herself. When she informed Mr. Adams about her pregnancy, she was still involved with her ex.
When you got pregnant, you didn't even include Mr. Adams in this equation.
No, I didn't.
You thought it was your ex's. And
Yes,
your ex
yes, I
said,
did.
well, it's mine too, and you all went through this whole process, but then you
Yes.
had a test, it was not your ex's. So immediately then you said it was Mr. Adams.
Yes. I located him and I told him it's a possibility that you may be the father of John.
Mr. Adams missed court due to incarceration, resulting in him being deemed the child's father by default. Miss Adams heard doubts about the paternity through her daughter, who knew Miss Williams. Miss Williams is alleged to have said Mr. Adams isn't the father, a claim she now denies.
Another situation, we was in a department store and I seen her. She was with a guy. She was around 9 months pregnant. And I asked her to sit down and talk to me for a minute. She said, I'm positive that that's not your son's child.
Did you tell her that, Ms. Williams?
No, that's a lie. She never seen me when I was pregnant.
Yes, I did.
Judge Lake acknowledges Williams' effort to better herself and work for her child. Mr. Adams recalls that after Williams had her ex-boyfriend tested, she indicated he might be the father. Williams asserts it was only a possibility, but Adams remains skeptical, citing prior contradictions from Williams and the child being named after her ex-boyfriend.
Your Honor, I do feel like it was other people as well.
What evidence do you have to suggest that?
My mother told me that she talked to Miss Williams and that Miss Williams stated that she had some other guys tested as well.
That was my ex I had tested. There were no other guys, there was just one.
Williams mentions she had scheduled DNA testing. Mr. Adams admits he missed one session due to being hungover. He also asserts that other scheduled times, Williams was absent. Judge Lake questions Adams' decision to not attend the paternity test, potentially leaving him viable for child support.
Mr. Adams, how did you even find out that you were deemed to be the father by default and you had already been placed on child support? How'd you find this out?
At the beginning of this year, I started receiving paperwork telling me that I had to make payments of $99 per month for a child that I haven't even been tested for yet.
They said she were in default. She never appeared and she left town.
Miss Adams and Williams argue over the child's paternity and their responsibilities as single mothers. Miss Adams feels that if the child is her grandson, she should have a relationship with him. Both women assert their roles as single mothers and the sacrifices they've made for their children. Will the reveal sadden Miss Adams?
It has been determined that Mr. Adams is not the father.
Take me off child support, baby.
Mr. Adams, your future was on the line because of your bad decisions. Now you should be ashamed of yourself, not sitting around dancing.
Mr. Fritz searched for his biological daughter for the past 30 years. He believes that he found her, Miss Agee, on Facebook just 4 months prior. He is here to prove that he is her biological father. Miss Agee asserts that Mr. Fritz is not her father. Will it be a happy ending for Mr. Fritz, or the saddest one of all?
He's on my birth certificate. The guy that's on my birth certificate was not my biological father. He was married to my mother when I was born, but I do know who my biological father is. I was about 8 or 9 years old. I started asking questions about who my real father was, and my grandmother was the one who raised me. She told me my biological father was Buster. That's the only person she knew as my biological father.
Mr. Fritz explains his 30-year search for Miss Agee, whom he strongly believes is his biological daughter. He shares a story from his past when he was incarcerated. During his transfer from one camp to another, he asked a friend to inform Angel's family about his whereabouts and his new location.
I don't remember that. I don't remember any of that.
You might remember these pictures right here.
What are those pictures of, sir?
That's a picture of Angel sitting on my father's lap and a picture of her sitting with my mother and father when she was
May I see those pictures?
2 years old.
These are pictures of a baby that you say is Miss Agee sitting on your father's lap.
Yes, ma'am. Ask her if that's her.
That is me.
Mr. Fritz searched for Miss Agee for years, even checking court records. Despite his efforts, Miss Agee is skeptical, emphasizing her need for a father during her childhood. The tension rises as both express their feelings, and Judge Lake prompts Mr. Fritz to discuss the day he located Miss Agee.
The day that I met her, I was sitting at the house, and I was on Facebook, and I just started messing with it. I started looking at relatives, this name, this name, Shauna Angel. That's the name that come up with the numbers of people I was looking at. And I said, if this is Angel, I says, this is Danny Fritz, please contact me.
Mr. Fritz recounted a conversation with Miss Agee about her daughter needing money for a cheerleading outfit. Although she never directly asked him for funds, Mr. Fritz consulted with his wife and then sent $50 to support. When he later visited Thomasville and asked about the cheerleader, Miss Agee's response indicated a delay in her daughter joining the team.
If you do not believe he's your biological father, why are you so angry at him?
I'm angry because he says he is my dad. If he is my dad, why wasn't you there? I needed a dad when I was younger. I'm 35 years old now. I've lived my life. I'm living my kid, I'm with my kids now. I'm living my life for my kids. And then he wants to pop up 35 years later and say he's my dad?
Judge Lake points out the contrasting emotions Miss Agee feels. She struggles with the idea that while Mr. Fritz claims to be her father, he wasn't present in her life. Moreover, the man Miss Agee believes to be her biological father disappointed her by failing to attend her Christmas play. Everyone awaits the paternity results.
It has been determined by this court.
I am her
Mr.
daddy.
Fritz, you are her father.
Yes! You can't be that mean and not be my youngin'. I love you so much, baby girl.
Miss Stanley and Mr. Williams are in court over the paternity of their 3-year-old son, Ryan Alexander. While Miss Stanley believes Mr. Williams isn't the father, he, supported by his Aunt Mary, is confident he is. Their past relationship was primarily sexual, and Miss Stanley now regrets their involvement.
I never loved him. It was a mistake.
How did you see the relationship, Mr. Williams?
She had us planned out getting married. She had us planned out to get the cakes. She had us planned out to get I was taking her kids back and forth to school almost every day. I've done everything for her and them kids.
In court, a text message from Miss Stanley to Miss Combs is presented, suggesting she and Chris plan to marry. Miss Stanley denies sending it, while Miss Combs insists it's genuine. The two argue, with Williams emphasizing his aunt's role in his upbringing, making the matter her business.
Is this a message you sent?
No, Your Honor, it is not.
Oh, well then let's pull up my Facebook page and let her
Well, then let's do that. It's none of your business. What's going on in the courtroom?
Yes, it is my because that's my nephew and I raised him.
I don't care.
It was his son.
In court, Judge Lake looks at a photo comparing a kid, Ryan, to Mr. Williams when he was young. Miss Combs shows a message saying Mr. Williams is a good dad. Miss Stanley says she didn't send it, and hence Mr. Williams used her phone. Miss Combs says it's from Facebook.
Miss Stanley, did you send this message?
No, Your Honor, I did not. He follows me everywhere. If I'm at a grocery store, he would follow me with me not even letting him have the knowledge of him knowing where I was at. He was there.
Miss Stanley met Mr. Williams at her cousin's place, and they dated while she was on a break from her ex. Even though she dated Mr. Williams, she still slept with her ex. When her son, Ryan Alexander, was born, Mr. Williams wasn't informed until the next day. Miss Stanley explains she was under sedation. Mr. Williams is upset about not being informed.
She wouldn't even call me to let me know she was having an emergency C-section at the hospital.
I was put under sedation.
You're wrong.
Did you not inform him on purpose?
I did not want him there because he is very disrespectful. He cusses me in front of my children.
Miss Stanley confirms that Mr. Williams' name isn't on the birth certificate. Instead, her ex's name is. This reveal saddens Mr. Williams, and he didn't show up at the hospital. If he had, and a DNA test proved he was the father, she would have let him sign. Stanley hopes the court results will end the issue.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Williams, you are not his father.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Your Honor.
I know that wasn't the news you wanted.
But hey, it's okay. I can move on my life. I can do better.
Mr. Rasmussen believes Miss Miller is denying that he's the father of Zaley due to her hatred towards him. He claims he's been present in Zaley's life, driving 160 miles every other weekend to see her, which has amounted to about 10,000 miles. Miss Miller doesn't have a driver's license or a way to meet him halfway.
She hates me because at the end of the relationship, when things got rocky, I'll admit it, I did go to another woman. I'll be the first to admit that. You know, it was my mistake.
Is that true, Miss Miller?
Yes, I was very mad at him for being a cheater. He cheated on me through pretty much our whole relationship. No, I do not hate him because of that. I lost my respect for him, yes.
Miss Miller asserts that Mr. Rasmussen is not the biological father of her child. Her reasoning is based on the timeline of conception. During that period, she was involved with someone else because Mr. Rasmussen had ended their relationship due to his infidelity.
She was conceived in March 2011. At that time, in March, I was with somebody else because he cheated on me.
But clearly, at some point, Mr. Rasmussen either thought or was informed that he was her biological father because he is paying child support, he's still driving 160 miles each way, and she has his last name.
Mr. Rasmussen believed he was the sole potential biological father of Zaley until she was about 5 or 6 months old. He confirms they never had a clear breakup, and by the time Zaley was born, she already had his last name. He affirms that his name is on Zaley's birth certificate and emphasizes his presence during her birth.
You believed you were the only possible biological father.
That is correct. There was never any, that I can recall, there was never any split there. There was, the relationship was on and off in a sense, but we never...
But by that time she was born, so she already had your name.
She already had my name.
Did you sign the birth certificate?
That is correct.
Mr. Rasmussen claims he prioritized Zaley's birth over work, but Miss Miller contradicts this, saying he was distracted during labor. While he says he used his computer to calm his excitement about fatherhood, Miss Miller believes he showed little enthusiasm about their daughter's birth.
I called my boss at work and said, hey, I gotta take some days off. I don't care if you fire me or whatever. My daughter's being born.
How do you remember it?
While I was in labor, he was sitting on one of those hospital cot beds in his own little bubble.
I admit I was on my computer, but that was far from it. How often does a man beat the woman to the hospital?
Mr. Rasmussen and Miss Miller discuss the possible paternity of Zaley. Miss Miller admits she waited to tell him about another potential father because Zaley began to resemble the other man as she grew. Mr. Rasmussen believes Zaley looks like him, presenting childhood photos for comparison. Did the DNA results reveal a sad truth?
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Rasmussen, you are not the father. You just showed me where your priorities were right there. What you cheering? I'm a single mother with nobody that loves me or my child. What you cheering for? He is over here breaking down because he loves this child so much. This is exactly why y'all don't have no business young, running around here, using sex like it's like an extracurricular activity.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you went and had revenge sex.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the whole time it was a lie?
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Bosley is a pretty responsible mother because she's here in court to protect her son from the scheming lies of the defendant. Where Miss Jackson claims that the 3-month-old baby boy was fathered by the plaintiff's son, Miss Bosley's here to reveal the truth.
My son made a terrible decision by signing a birth certificate. You know, basically, I just feel like we need to know because I don't want my son to have to go through life wondering if this is his child or not.
So you feel like you gotta save your son from a mistake he made?
I do.
With the signed birth certificate basically a noose around Mr. Bosley's neck, he better have some evidence to claim why he's not Maverick's father. When Miss Jackson first met Mr. Bosley, he promised her a happy family with kids of their own. What changed then?
I wasn't there during the whole sex and cheating thing. I found out she was pregnant at maybe about 4 months, maybe. And I told my son immediately, that's not your baby. Like, you've been with her not even long enough.
So, Miss Jackson, when you found out you were pregnant, you told Mr. Bosley?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's enough backstory, but the real question is, how did Miss Bosley end up being a part of all this drama? Miss Jackson openly admitted to sleeping with men other than Mr. Bosley. So when she turned up pregnant, Miss Bosley tried to warn her son that this woman's just trying to rope you in.
Your Honor, I only cheated on him once, and that's with the person that was at work. But I did have sex with one other person that was there at the job, and that was the person that came to the house. The other person that I didn't have oral sex with.
This is a mess. This is a mess.
Yeah.
By this point, even Judge Lauren is confused. Miss Jackson was too busy getting into bed with other men. And now she has the audacity to pretend that she actually cares for baby Maverick. The judge scolds her and tells her that a woman sleeping around with 3 men is the worst woman to ever exist.
There's no reason a beautiful young girl like yourself should be running around here laying around with this many men. It's unacceptable. I'm not saying this to you. Look at me when I'm talking to you, Miss Jackson. I'm not saying this to you because I'm angry. I'm saying it to you because I don't know if you have anybody in your life to sit you down and say, you don't do that.
With Judge Lauren hot and temperamental, it's finally revealed why Miss Jackson has been embracing her promiscuous ways. She grew up without a father, but that's no reason to cheat on the man you were in love with. Now she's got a son who might end up suffering the same fate as her. Finally, Miss Bosley gets a chance to speak.
In all honesty, I was like, that's not your son. Immediately, because this made me think twice.
And Mom, once you got that picture, you believe this other man is the father.
For sure.
Judge Lauren asks Jerome to escort Mr. Green, the other man Miss Jackson slept with, into the court. But this man bluntly denies being Maverick's father. Mr. Bosley is hopeful that the paternity test would come out positive, and maybe he'll even forgive Miss Jackson for her infidelity. So, are they ready to hear the results?
It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Bosley. That is your son, your biological son.
Mr. Wilson's absolutely done with Miss Dean's behavior. After how he opened his home to her, she's done nothing but torture him. He thought that baby girl Jakaya was his daughter, but after he found Miss Dean frolicking about with other men, he's having second thoughts.
I asked her, could she have a baby for me?
That you planned.
Because she knew what I've been through in the past with not having kids and how desperately I wanted to have a kid. And she had me under the impression that she was willing to go through with it with me.
And I did.
And
you don't see the baby?
Then, you know, I see the baby, but I don't see me in the baby. I see the ex in the baby.
When Miss Dean first found out she was pregnant, she was 100% sure the baby belonged to Mr. Wilson. The moment she shared the news with him, he was over the moon. When the baby came into the world, he was there to cut the cord and even signed the birth certificate. What does Miss Dean have to say?
How was it 30 days we was having concessions all that time? He is lying, bro. Stop lying. You was making me upset. I apologize, but he is sitting here lying. Gennaro haven't helped me since day one. Ever since that baby came out, I provided everything.
Now, Mr. Wilson started to take care of Miss Dean. But when he saw that she was having her ex around, it made him absolutely furious. Miss Dean claims nothing happened with the ex and he just stayed on the couch. But Mr. Wilson insists that it was more than that. He ends up confronting the ex.
I asked him, I said, is y'all having a child together? He's like, yeah. I said, what y'all supposed to be having? He said, a little girl. He went into details. So that fueled my doubts.
Wait a minute, this was before the baby was born?
Yes, before.
So why'd you sign the birth certificate?
When the baby was born, it was so light and bright. I was like, he's so dark. There's no way he's the father. I still didn't have doubts.
Before the baby's birth, Mr. Wilson had a rough idea that Miss Dean was not being faithful to him. After the confrontation with the ex, it felt like he wouldn't sign the birth certificate because he was so angry. But in the end, he still signed it. Why would he do such a foolish thing?
I looked at the baby, Your Honor, and I said, it's a possibility this could be my baby, but it's in fact her baby. And until I know if it's my baby, I'm going to give it back her baby. I'm not going to hold the baby up, not going to take it away from her mom. I'm giving it back to her. We dropped the baby off at a couple of weeks, and I haven't seen the baby since.
And there it was, the proof in broad daylight. Since then, Mr. Wilson has been on a mission. He decided that until he could prove that Jakaya was his daughter, he was claiming sole custody of their baby daughter. And it's been 17 months since Miss Dean has seen her.
He used me, baby.
She watched too many Lifetime,
No,
Your Honor.
he used me, Your Honor. After I had that baby, Your Honor, he proposed to me, told me that we were gonna get married, moved in together. He lied, took the baby, tried to move away, had the baby in his care. He never took her because I gave her to him.
So this is the point I'm getting at.
Turns out that Miss Dean did the same thing to him almost 9 years ago. Even Mr. Wilson's brother was shocked that he's still with her. He even thinks that she's after him for the money. Well, the only thing to settle this is to bring in the results.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Wilson, you are not the father. Miss Faithful, stop.
I apologize for taking you through this, but I am gonna find out who her father is, and I am gonna.
You gotta find out?
No.
Some mistakes haunt you forever. And in Mr. Fisher's case, it was when he signed the birth certificate of beautiful baby Sophia. Thinking he was taking care of a girl born from his own blood, he was shocked when her fiancé revealed to her a nasty truth.
One of his family members in Florida and another one of his family members that he was with at the time had texted me. He said, Trey's cheating on you, which we call him Trey, but his name is John. Me, I was hurt. And so I went to be by myself at the pool area where I was at the time. A guy walked up to me and he's like, well, you look like you need somebody to talk to. Do you want to go to my camper and talk?
Imagine you're engaged to marry one of the sweetest men on the planet and you go ahead and cheat on him. Poor Mr. Fisher had no idea what his fiancée was cooking up behind his back while vacationing in Florida. Now he's trying to figure out whether or not he wants to marry her.
Did you ever find out if Mr. Fisher was actually cheating that time?
Yes, Your Honor. Me and him talked about it, and the family member admitted that it was a lie, that he did not cheat on me.
So the family member sent a text and lied?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you went and had revenge sex?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the whole time it was a lie?
Yes, Your Honor.
The surprise for Mr. Fisher was that he never knew that someone else might have fathered baby Sophia. All this time he had been thinking he was the daddy. Even when they found out Miss Doyle was pregnant, he was happy. But Miss Doyle was busy nursing her feelings of guilt.
I cheated on him. So whenever I seen the lines, I was kind of upset. I was like, well, this isn't happening, you know? Because I knew he didn't know that I had cheated on him. And I just couldn't find it in myself to tell him because he was so excited I didn't want to hurt him, you know?
But it killed me. Everything inside of me is ripped apart because of it. That baby is my world, and I want her to be mine.
The even more heartbreaking news is that even though Miss Doyle regrets her actions, it doesn't change the fact that the conception dates line up with the night she slept with another man. What really pains Mr. Fisher is that he had lots of big plans for their future until Miss Doyle ruined them completely.
Miss Doyle, when he asked you to marry him, did you say to yourself, I need to tell the truth?
I did. In my head, I was like, well, it wouldn't be right to marry him if the baby isn't his. But I was thinking, okay, well, he doesn't know. And that was wrong of me, myself, to do that. But I love him. And if we were going to be a family, that would be a great way to start off. So I said yes.
When Mr. Fisher reminisces about the birth, it's like someone handed a little kid a cute puppy. He speaks with such fondness about how he was so excited to see the baby come out and how those 3 at the hospital meant so much to him. Little did he know that soon enough, Miss Doyle would be confessing her sins.
She told me she cheated on me. I tell her I love her, she's my world, so is Sophia. But I shouldn't have to stay and take care of some other man's baby because that's what a man is supposed to do. I'll stay and take care of her because I know she thinks that I'm the father.
Despite dealing with so much pain, it's admirable how Mr. Fisher agreed to stay with Miss Doyle and take care of baby Sophia, in case it turns out the baby's father isn't him. And finally, Miss Doyle submits to court a calendar she made to keep track of her conception dates.
You took vacation April 21st to May 1st.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that's the window of time in which you cheated. Admit
Yes,
it.
Your Honor.
The window of conception would be between April 19th to April 26th for a child born on January 15th.
Before opening the results, Judge Lauren asks Mr. Fisher if he's mentally prepared to handle what's about to come his way. Will he be able to move on if baby Sophia turns out to be that man's? Will he want to stay with Miss Doyle and marry her? Stay tuned as the results are revealed.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Fisher, you are the father.
It's one thing to be a cheater and keep it in the closet, but it's a whole new clown show when someone admits they love cheating. Mr. Muhammad is here to prove he fathered Miss Walton's daughter, Brooklyn, but Miss Walton has some other claims to make.
I was having more sexual intercourse with the other guy than Mr. Muhammad.
So what was the nature of your relationship with Mr. Muhammad around the time Brooklyn was conceived?
The nature of our relationship was Anwar was already having an affair with another woman before he had moved in with me.
Openly admitting to cheating is one thing, but being so proud of it is just astonishing. Even Judge Lauren is surprised with Miss Walton's guts. According to Miss Walton, the only reason she was having an affair behind Mr. Muhammad's back was because he was sleeping with another woman.
She told you the other guy was her cousin?
Her cousin.
That's not true, Your Honor. He's always known this guy.
I know.
Was.
That's the other man that she wanted to be with.
So you're saying you were in a relationship?
In a relationship.
And you're saying you were not in a relationship when Brooklyn was conceived? You have an older child together, am I correct?
Yes, 4 years old.
But how did Miss Walton manage to pull off all the sneaking around? Turns out she would lie to Mr. Muhammad and tell him she's off to work. In reality, she would be taking her side piece of a boy toy to a hotel to get the nasty deed done. But the question is, did she stay intimate with Mr. Muhammad during that time?
The moment I thought I was pregnant, I text the guy and I tell him I missed my period. Mr. Muhammad during that time who was living with me got my phone, looked at the text message, and confronted
Ain't wrong. That's wrong, Your Honor. What happened was I came home, she asleep, I looked at her phone, I started seeing a full-fledged text message about having sex, all that stuff.
So, how did Mr. Muhammad find out that Miss Walton was sleeping with the man she said was her cousin? It started with her refusing to have sex with him and acting all funny. Mr. Muhammad thought she was just being rebellious. But then one day, he checked her phone.
I grabbed the phone, I started looking at the text message, I see the conversation between her and the gentleman.
Okay.
I confront her about
What did the conversation say?
basically saying that we having sex, period. Sending pictures back and forth with each other, they sending body part pictures, all that stuff.
According to Mr. Muhammad, he and Miss Walton were in a committed relationship, and they already have an older child together. So when he received news of her pregnancy, he assumed it was mine. Little did he know that his girlfriend had a whole surprise package prepared for him.
I conceived February 4th. No, the 5th. That's the day after our oldest daughter's first birthday.
But if you conceived that night, wouldn't that make Mr. Muhammad Brooklyn's biological
But I was
father?
having sex with him and the other guy that whole week.
Like, looking just like me. Look at her. I know
don't
that.
think
That's my
she is.
baby right
I think she's the other guy.
It looks like Miss Walton doesn't want Mr. Muhammad to be Brooklyn's father. Everything from her actions and words is so obvious. But Mr. Muhammad's living in some land of delusion, because according to him, he knew Brooklyn was his daughter the moment he held her.
She didn't tell me nothing, she's lying. She said that she never told me anything.
When did you find out she was pregnant?
I found out through my family.
That she was having sex with both men. You weren't using protection with the other man?
No.
You weren't using protection, Mr. Muhammad?
No.
Trifle.
You were having sex around the window of conception with both men?
Yes.
Crazy.
This is 50-50 no matter how we slice it.
Right.
Judge Lauren ends up confronting Miss Walton. That's why she does not want the other man to be the dad so bad. Turns out it's because he's wealthier than Mr. Muhammad. Does that mean Miss Walton's just a gold digger? Well, this isn't about her. It's about baby Brooklyn. And it's time for Jerome to reveal the results.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Muhammad, you are the father.
Yes. I told you. I know what I'm talking about. You hear me? I know what I'm talking about.
Right now, you have 2 children together. Let's stop making this a fight. Do you understand? Yeah. What is solo dolo?
Single. Basically, you're single.
So the man asked you about your relationship status and you told him you were single, but you were really in a relationship with Mr. Hunley.
Yes.
She was seen on Facebook with another guy kissing. She even got his name tattooed on her body as if...
A whole lot of drama and turmoil surrounded this couple. Oh yeah. The defendant was ready to back out of the relationship for good if he wasn't the father of the baby, while the baby mama claimed she had serious doubts. Certainly did not help her situation, but we shall know where it goes soon.
Every other day is a constant battle of whether or not I'm cheating, I'm lying. We have 3 kids, and I'm woman enough to be here and say that there's a possibility that my 9-month-old daughter is not Mr. Wayne's. I did lie to Mr. Wayne, but he's always
you've
saying
been lying
that
about
I'm
everything.
cheating,
You lied
I'm
about
lying.
who you was,
Okay,
lied about
but
how many people
I
you
lied
been
about
with.
honest about that, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Getting into the specifics of their relationship, we come to know that these guys had 3 kids together. And now, the 3rd one's paternity was what brought this relationship to a standstill. As it turns out, Miss Brown hasn't been a goody two-shoes in the last decade they've been together. Yup, they've been together that long. Though she claimed she'd been honest.
You were upset because she didn't openly admit how many sex partners she had had previously?
Your Honor, nobody is perfect.
Most women lie about how many sexual partners they've had
Thank
in
you,
the
Your
past.
Honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And they usually make the number smaller.
There was neither love nor trust to be found here. Nada, nothing. This had been an on and off again thing for all these years. Ultimately, the baby mama had to accept that she had been a liar and a cheater. But the attitude of Mr. Ramirez wasn't too great either.
We were separated in the month that I had conceived. I never had a father. I chose to go back to Mr. Wayne because I felt like he always manipulated me into being with him, saying, oh, you never had your daddy, you want your daughters to grow up to be like you, and I don't understand why, you just want to go out and do this and do that, and you don't want a father for your children. But in all reality, I do.
Gotta hand it to the plaintiff. She raised all the right questions. It was understandable where the baby daddy's doubt was coming from, but the fella was still with her and kept coming back. I guess her allure was hard to resist. Huh.
I'm trying to sit there
therefore,
and rub
how
on
can
the
you
belly,
just
and I can't
say
even
that
rub on
I'm
it pridefully.
not who you want me to be, and I made that change to be with you. And now, if she's not mine, I'm gonna walk away. But you've been in her life for the past 9 months. So how can you just say I'm gonna walk away from a child that possibly is not mine? And you know, you've been there knowingly that she's probably not yours.
Next up, Miss Brown's dam finally breaks. And boy, was she regretful of her actions. She was. They both took it out on each other, and both wanted a family too. Now that was a conundrum for the ages, huh? Let's take a look at how the baby mama was taking this all in.
You know, a part of you says, I want to be the father I never had, and I keep going back to this woman.
Yes,
and then, and the next breath, she says, you're calling her names.
Every day, I'm tired of it. I'm really, truly, honestly tired of it. If you don't want to be with me, don't be with me. You can still be there for your
I'm
kids.
not gonna deny
you don't
that.
have to be with me.
Now, Mr. Ramirez was being plagued by all kinds of doubts, and yet he had been along for the pregnancy ride. Yup, he'd even bonded with the kid and everything. But the doubts kept nagging him. He presented pictures to substantiate this doubt even further.
This is a picture of Jeremiah on the left and a picture of you. You don't feel like there's any physical similarity.
I'm still battling with it to this day because it be points where I'm holding my baby and I'm like, she did say she probably not mine. And it's kind of hard for me to be the father that I know I can be to the fullest potential.
Gotta hand it to Miss Brown. She was adopting the honesty policy pretty well. In her heart, she wanted the defendant to be her guy, but the other man was still very much in the picture. The conception calendar was proof of that enough.
You were able, through this app, to determine the window of the conception. Were you intimate with the other man during that window of conception?
Yes, Your Honor.
We're separated and still
And how about Mr. Wayne?
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you intimate with him during those days, that week as well?
It was about a week after.
Their relationship was really in great turmoil. They were separated already, but all hope lay in those results. Because, as the baby said, he wasn't up for taking any more chances with this woman right here. Uh-oh!
She also has a 4-year-old boy that I also doubt due to, once again, her own confessions.
So you not only doubt the 9-month-old,
my 4-year-old.
You also doubt the 4-year-old is yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
But he didn't start doubting my 4-year-old until I told him about my 9-month-old.
Too much was on the line here. The relationship, the family, but most of all, the fate of baby Jeremiah. Time to see whether this family had any future, or if the baby daddy was going to live up to his word.
It has been determined by this court that you are her father.
Thank you.
That's one way.
And that's why I'm here, to give you your answers and your proof, to show you that you don't have to mistreat me.
And I'm already starting to respect you a little bit more because of it, because I just found out some good news.
Love was hanging by a thread. The agitated plaintiff was fed up with the defendant's act, and he wasn't gonna shape up. He was gonna be shipped out. However, the defendant claimed he had reasons to strongly suspect the paternity.
I'm tired of being accused of cheating. I'm tired of him saying that it's not my son. I'm tired of just everything.
So this is really impacting your relationship?
It is.
What is it like in your home right now?
We fight probably like 3-4 times every week out of the week.
Constant fighting?
Constantly.
It was a love or bust situation over her mates. For real. Miss Sand began straight off the bat that her patience was running thin. The guy had been accusing her of cheating and all, and she wasn't having it. Well, we shall see about that now.
I apologize, I'm sorry, but it's just really emotional on me, and I'm not really a talker for real. Like,
you don't have to apologize.
But
this paternity doubt relationship, it really is bothering you that your home is in this much turmoil.
It does.
But he causes this, Your Honor.
I wouldn't say that.
You do.
I don't.
Yes, you do.
Now, what unraveled this relationship to this point? It seemed to start unraveling shortly after 1 month of these guys being together. Yup, that fast. Baby mama was a busybody on the phone, and that didn't sit too well with Mr. Hunley. And so, the pattern began.
We had casual conversation before Jada and I had got together. What made him mad was I said something in the message about solo dolo.
Not even the same person.
What is solo dolo?
Single. Basically, you're single.
So the man asked you about your relationship status and you told him you were single, but you were really in a relationship with Mr. Hunley.
Yes.
That was enough reason for the baby to start suspecting that the girlfriend wasn't being a goody two-shoes. The two of them had varied narratives on the phone discourse, but the underlying context was clear. Miss Sand was indeed mingling.
I was like, okay, so how did he text you? Like, how did you get your number now? You got a new phone.
Was it the same guy, Miss Sand?
No,
Were you
it was
cheating
not, Your
again?
Honor. No, it was not, Your Honor. It was somebody that I used to hang out with before Jade and I.
A man?
Yes, ma'am.
How did he get the new phone?
It wasn't a new phone. It was a new phone, but it was not a new number. No, it was not,
We
Jade.
got new phones, both switched because of the
No, we did not.
Next up, we got to see another reason why the defendant doubted paternity, and he came prepared with an exhibit. Oh yeah! Now this exhibit was one of a kind as it presented physical evidence. Baby mama was quick to interject though, but the judge shut her down.
So this is New Year's, right? She's telling me she's going to bed. And I'm like, okay, but I'm still playing beer pong, so I'm gonna stay down there for a little minute. She went upstairs. I'm thinking she upstairs asleep. I go upstairs, going to bed, ain't nobody there. I woke up the next morning and she laying next to me. And then I seen a bruise like on her upper thigh.
And that's wrong.
No, it's not wrong.
No.
As soon as Miss Sand got the chance to amend the exhibit, yep, she jumped on it, and she further pointed out where the sneaky bruise was. But the defendant didn't buy that. Furthermore, the baby mama was also getting interesting visits from certain people as well.
We're playing beer pong all night. I was drunk. I don't remember what had happened, but I woke up the next morning and there was a mark on my leg, probably right about here. It was the following day I had woke up, I went to take my pants off to get in the shower, and there was a bruise, and it was actually way bigger than this. It was like my whole thigh.
Definitely was
So
no, it was not.
With all this stuff going on, the news of pregnancy was going to trump all that. And it sure did. It was not very well received, and Mr. Hunley was even more on the edge afterward when the baby mama surprised him with another piece of news.
The reason I didn't believe it though is because all the things that happened prior, so I honestly didn't believe I was the only one she was with, so I definitely couldn't have been the only father.
So as soon as she told you, even though you all were in a relationship, your immediate thought was, I'm not the only one she's with, so I have doubt.
Yes, ma'am. But then she also told me that she ain't the father, or that I'm not the father.
Next up, we got to see how much the baby daddy had been involved in the pregnancy journey. The defendant claimed he was involved, but the baby mama didn't agree with that so much. She wanted the emotional connection, and Mr. Hindley failed to deliver on that. And this led to an interesting conversation the couple shared on the day of delivery.
He was not involved in my pregnancy like he should have been.
It's not, but that's also like on when the day he was born. Like she told me before I signed the birth certificate with a smirk on her face, talking about she's like, yeah, you sure you want to sign that without getting the DNA test?
I did not. I said,
yeah, she did. Like yeah.
That's not what you want to hear in the delivery room.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying.
Even after all this chaotic mess, the baby daddy still ended up signing the birth certificate. He wasn't the biological father, but he was the legal father, and that left the poor guy in tears in the middle of the court proceeding.
I mean, I kind of grew up in the same similar situation. When I was 18, I found out the man that raised me ain't my real dad for real, like, and that hurt me for real too, because I mean, the man had been there my whole life for real, like,
And I can see how emotional that makes you.
I'm sorry, Mom.
You just did not want the same for that little boy.
No.
Talking about the future of this relationship, the baby daddy was at a loss for words. He was struggling and desperately wanted the little guy to be his kid. The baby mama, on the other hand, had been in contact with her ex. Not cool, woman. Not cool indeed.
Who do you think his father is?
If it's not me, I would have to say probably her ex or something.
Does the ex know about Jade?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has the ex met Jade?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why has the ex met Jade?
He had kept in contact with my family when we split up.
Was it going to be love or a total bust? We've reached the most important part of the case, the truth. That's what these guys came here for. So, that's what they were gonna get. Here we go.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Hunley, you are the father.
Yeah, this is the best feeling, man. I can't even explain it. Hey, yeah, that's my little homie, man.
A guy stuck between his wife and mother, and he showed the apt picture of his circumstances in the courtroom quite well. The mother-in-law strongly suspected the paternity of baby Nevea and had a good enough reason for it, while the defendant was ready to fight it out.
Explain to me, why are you so doubtful?
Your Honor, Mr. Neville's and Mrs. Coleman Neville's was on a breakup. Jessica moved in with another guy And shortly after that, she went to jail for 30 days. And as soon as she got out, she came straight to my son. And 2 weeks later, she said she's pregnant.
Clear the runway, people, because Miss Lotta was on a roll. She didn't beat around the bush at all and went straight to the point. According to her, the timeline was a total mess, as Miss Jessica had been in and out of jail and another guy's house. And then bam, she announces the pregnancy.
She was seen on Facebook with another guy kissing him. She even got his name tattooed on her body as if, Your Honor, my son didn't mean anything to her.
You got another guy's name tattooed?
Yes.
The baby mama's moral compass was faulty, because she showed no remorse at all. Moreover, the baby daddy acknowledged this fact as well, and since then, the paternity doubt has been pricking him in the side.
Were you at the hospital when the baby was born?
Yes, I was, from the beginning of the time she was born all the way to now.
When your wife told you she was pregnant, did you believe the baby was yours?
Yes, I did.
You had no doubts?
I had no doubts in my mind.
Were you aware that she had slept with someone else while you all were on the break?
Yes, I was.
But you still had no doubts about?
I had no doubts at all.
Oh dear! As soon as Mr. Neville's got to know about his wife's shenanigans, well, he took matters into his own hands then. Yep, guess desperate times call for desperate measures, and he took that way too seriously.
Sometimes I look like maybe she looks like me, or then maybe she don't, or maybe the ears or the eyes.
So you're desperately trying to pick out a connection.
Couple of things about her.
And when you say you see other people, are you familiar with the facial features of anyone else that your wife slept with?
Yes.
Well, by the looks of it, it seemed the baby mama was only here to accept all her extracurricular activities. She wasn't regretful. Furthermore, the plaintiff accused her that she was also keeping her son away from her as well.
I'm feeling that...
More doubtful or less doubtful?
More doubtful. I want this connection. I really do. But my son, he only calls me when he needs things. And it's like she's keeping him away from me. He never calls, Mom, how you doing, or anything.
It was time to see whether it would be a moment of relief for these guys or a heart-wrenching twist. The fate of baby Nevaeh hung in the balance. Miss Lotta was ready for the results, and so were we. Let's roll them on out.
Mr. Neville's, you are her father.
I told you. I never lied. Thank you.